Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Larry Platt, the CEO of Citizen Media Group, and Roxanne Patel Shapalavi, Executive Editor of Citizen Media Group.
Hello. Nice to see you all.
Can you hear? Yeah, there we go. Welcome, Philadelphia.
So I just want to note that the amazing team members who put this together for us have also given us lots of instructions. We're going to try to follow their rules.
So this is the third annual Citizen of the Year Awards. It's what we like to think of as the ESPYs of civic engagement, where we all come together to honor civic all-stars who make Philadelphia what it is. So thank you all for coming out.
Yes, it is great to see all of you. Thank you for being here. I just want to take a minute to shout out our sponsors. We have many of them, so thank all of you for being here. Penn Medicine is our presenting sponsor, CHOP, Aramark, WISFIS, PCOM, IBEW 98, and the Phillies, as well as all of these wonderful people and all of you. Let's also give a round of applause for the Fitler Club and all the Fitler staff here who are treating us so well tonight. And I want to just acknowledge our Citizen and Philly Mag team members who worked so hard to bring this night together. So Danielle Gartenmeyer and Corey Moscow, who lead our events team together.
Let's hear it for them.
And Jessica Blatt Press, who has so joyfully shepherded this awards project since its first year, and will be leaving us in a couple months to bring her wisdom and joy to young people as a teacher. Yes, exactly.
Let's all boo Jess.
Boo! That's right.
You've
teaching children.
You've perfectly.
Sorry, Charlie.
You've perfectly channeled our feelings there. So since we gathered in this space last year, we've had some changes. The Philadelphia Citizen, we created the Citizen Media Group, purchased Philadelphia Magazine and its associated products. Hopefully you've seen some of the change so far in the last couple months with Philadelphia Magazine. Big shout out to the Philly Mag staff. We are all now one staff, the Citizen Media Group, a nonprofit. In our midst is the superstar editor of Philadelphia Magazine, Christine Spear-Lejeune. Yeah.
There she is.
So, you know, what Christy likes to say is that media should be, local regional media should be a love letter to the city, a love letter to the city and region, a love letter to Philadelphia. And that's really what our mission is. Which doesn't mean we shy away from telling hard truths, but it means that we celebrate, like we do tonight, the doers, the makers, the change agents among us, because that's how we get better. So we're in the debt of all of you who we're honoring tonight. Now, I will say that we are, as I said, now a nonprofit, which means we are trying to start a movement to escalate and influence the conversation of Philadelphia. And we need all of your help. We need your intellectual capital, we need your social capital, and we need just your capital. So please...
Feel free to help out.
So in June, there'll be a gorgeously redesigned, cool Philadelphia magazine, an amazing new phillymag.com, a refreshed citizen, the Philadelphia Citizen.org, and a very innovative membership program, because we want this to be about our common purpose all together, all of us serving the city that we love. So please join the movement as you hear about it come June. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Please welcome Ambassador David Cohen.
I think I can do with one microphone. I won't need two. So thanks very much, and thanks, Larry and Roxanne. It's great to share this stage with you at the beginning of what's going to be a terrific evening. And I do have to say, what a great Philadelphia crowd we have here tonight. I want you to know we all recognize that we're in competition with the Phillies, we're in competition with the Flyers. For those of you who are hockey fans, my son tells me we're in competition with the Ottawa Charge, which is playing tonight, but we're very sensitive to that. We're going to run an efficient program for you. So after 4 years serving as the United States Ambassador to Canada, I returned to Philadelphia with a clear intention to be thoughtful and selective about the opportunities I chose to pursue. When I was asked what my interests were, what lane I wanted to focus on, my response was easy. I said that I wanted to focus on Philadelphia, organizations that work to enhance Philadelphia, substantively and from a brand and image perspective, organizations that truly serve the Philadelphia region. I wanted to focus on work that aligned with my values and where I thought I could make a meaningful contribution. I've known Larry Platt for a long time, across multiple careers for both of us. And the Citizen was actually one of my primary Philadelphia news sources, even when I was in Canada. So when Larry approached me for advice as he considered acquiring Philadelphia Magazine, I was glad to help. When he then asked me to formally join Citizen Media Group as chair of its board, it was a no-brainer. I have long been a strong supporter of journalism and the vital role that journalists play in our society. For those who've heard me talk before, you've heard me say that I truly believe that journalism is the lifeblood of democracy. Spending 4 years abroad and interacting with ambassadors from all over the world, where there's not necessarily a lot of democracy in a lot of those countries, there was free commentary about what a free press and what journalism in the United States meant and did to support democracy. And frankly, with the state of our country and the world today, democracy can you can use all the infusions of support it can find right now. I'm also attracted to Citizen Media Group's commitment to civic journalism, work that informs, engages, and empowers communities. We are living in a time when trustworthy, mission-driven media matters more than ever. And the Citizen Media Group's mission statement to help cultivate better, more informed citizens perfectly reflects the kind of journalism our communities need more of today. I do want to say, I say it all the time, that I'm incredibly proud of the work being done by our journalists at the Citizen and Philadelphia Magazine. Their dedication to telling meaningful stories in a responsible way and elevating important voices strengthens our communities every single day. It is an honor to support that work and to be part of this organization's future. As I look around this room and check out the program, I realize that tonight is a perfect reflection of the Citizen Media Group's mission in action as we come together to celebrate an amazing group of individuals, some well-known, some less prominent, but they all embody the very best of our city and region. We have in this room a collection of Philadelphia's best, our best leaders, our best change agents, our most committed citizens, making a real difference in our communities. While we honor them tonight, frankly, and I think I speak for all of you, it's an honor to be able to honor them. So congratulations to all of our honorees tonight. So thank you all for being here tonight, for honoring our Citizens of the Year, and for advancing the mission of Citizen Media Group. Get ready to be inspired. Have a good night.
Please turn your attention to the screens for a special message from Governor Josh Shapiro.
Good evening. I'm proud to congratulate the 2026 Citizen of the Year, Dr. Paul Offit, one of the world's foremost vaccine experts and a Philadelphian who speaks truth to power to protect our neighbors. In the face of RFK Jr. and the Trump administration's blatant disregard for science and their threats to public health, Dr. Offit has refused to stay silent. Before he became a national voice of reason, Dr. Offit spent 20 years researching a vaccine for rotavirus, teaching future doctors as professor of pediatrics at Penn, and starting and running CHOP's Vaccine Education Center. I want you to know, as the child of a pediatrician, I appreciate that impressive career, which I know has prepared him for a lifetime following science to save lives. But when RFK Jr. kicked him and his colleagues off the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practice, or ACIP, the group of experts CDC relies on to make recommendations on how to use vaccines to keep us safe, and then went and replaced him with a hand-picked group of vaccine skeptics, well, Dr. Offit knew that saving lives now meant using his powerful voice. Through his column, media appearances, and in his research, Dr. Offit shows every day that his allegiance is to nothing and no one but science, facts, and the great people of this country. He joins a distinguished group of honorees tonight who have made Philadelphia and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania better through their service. From Jane Golden, who has helped create 4,000 public works of art through the Mural Arts Project, to Keisha Hudson, who continues to pursue justice as the head of the Defender Association of Philadelphia, to John and Leigh Middleton and Jeff Marrazzo, who have given back so much to this city and to our Commonwealth. At a time when we are all called to serve our communities, they all serve as model citizens, bringing us together to drive real change. And to my friend Larry Platt and his team at The Citizen, thank you for shining a light on these great leaders and the great journalism you put forth each and every day to better connect our communities. Congratulations on all of your success, and I hope you have a great night.
Now, please welcome to the stage Citizen Board Member and MS Now Chief Correspondent, Ali Velshi.
Thank you, everybody. It is great to be with you tonight. And I'm always so inspired by the messages of the Philadelphia Citizen. But in this particular moment in which public trust is as endangered as it is a real reminder for us to go back to things that have happened in the last several years in this country and think about public health and the role of our public health officials. We are honoring tonight Dr. Paul Offit. I don't know how many of you know about Paul Offit. If you don't, I invite you to go to the current issue of Philadelphia Magazine and read Roxanne's remarkable profile of him. This is the kind of person we need. This is the kind of courage we need in this country right now. It's not all political. I think, I live in a world of politics and the political courage that we need. But sometimes we need people with remarkable institutional memory, with the scientific chops, with the public health commitment to come out and stand up and let us understand what the truth is. And that is what Paul Offit has done. He is somebody who, under attack, could have done what a lot of people do. They try to get out of the limelight a little bit, avoid the fire that's around them. He didn't. He decided that he's going to double down and he's going to let us know what the dangers are out there, what you actually need to understand about public health and government policy and vaccination. And I am about to have a remarkable conversation with him. But before I do that, I want to welcome Paul Offit to the stage to receive his award as the Citizen of the Year. Now, usually I say more in my introduction, but I'm going to have a lot of time to have a conversation with Paul. First of all, congratulations, Paul.
Thank you very
It's
much.
an honor to meet you in person, and I really do encourage everybody, if you haven't read the article, to read it. Paul, there's so much you and I can talk about tonight, and it's going to be all over the map, because when we talk about vaccine skepticism, and I think I tend to use a different word these days because skepticism is not always a bad thing. This anti-vax movement is something entirely different. But what I didn't realize until I read this profile about you was that this is definitely not a new problem. It actually dates back to 1796 or something like that. That's when we had our first vaccine advocates and our first vaccine skeptics. Benjamin Franklin was on the right side of that equation. Tell us a little bit about this idea. Why is this so well rooted in our history, the skepticism about vaccination?
Right, so when Edward Jenner invented the smallpox vaccine, which is basically using cowpox to prevent human smallpox, which is a related virus, there was a picture that came out in 1804 by James Gilray, and what you saw Edward Jenner looking disinterested, looking away, while he is holding this lancet that he was going to be inoculating people with, and all these people have fearful looks. Why? Because they were turning into cows. They had floppy ears and tails and big noses, and so I think at the heart of that is the notion of being injected with a biological.
Right.
I think that people don't necessarily understand it, and so it's
And
very,
that's not that weird, right?
No,
You're going to
not
put
at
a
all.
live virus in me that comes from something that's not me. That's understandable that people.
I would argue that some of the fears about vaccines today are about as biologically likely as that one. But yes, I think you're right.
I got a vaccine. I'm on hold to go to Cuba. America's occupied with another war that doesn't make sense, so Cuba's off the hook for a few weeks. But I realized I had to get a vaccination for chikungunya. I didn't know what chikungunya was, but I went to the guy I've been getting vaccines from for 20 years, and I've got that yellow card, and I've got 4 of them because they're all full of all the vaccines I get. Didn't occur to me. He said to me, this is what's there, this is what you need. There are 2 other diseases in Cuba that you can't vaccinate for, so you just hope you don't get bitten by mosquitoes, and go on with it. There is an element of trust that many of us have had in our public health system that suggests that there's ACIP and there's a CDC and there are recommendations and your doctor follows it and you get the vaccines necessary, and it's generally in your interest and the public interest. When, in your opinion, in recent years, did that start to deteriorate?
Well, first of all, I do think we ask a lot of parents in this country. We ask them to, in the first few years of life, give vaccines to prevent 14 different diseases. That can mean as many as 25 inoculations at that time. It can mean as many as 5 shots at one time to prevent diseases most people don't see, using biological fluids most people don't understand.
Right.
So I get the pushback at some level. And it's okay to be skeptical. You should be skeptical about anything that you put into your body. What you shouldn't be is a science denialist and conspiracy theorist, which is what I think we're leaning into. I think that this sort of got supercharged over the first 2 years of the COVID pandemic. In the first year of the COVID pandemic, we didn't have anything. We didn't have vaccines till the end of the year to prevent a disease that was spread asymptomatically, meaning you may be coming in contact with someone who could give you a virus that could kill you. And we didn't have anything to stop. So what did we do? We mass quarantine, isolated, closed businesses, shuttered schools, restricted travel. And I think that was, to some people, seen as government overreach. They didn't like it. They thought it was the heavy hand of government. The second year, 2021, when we had a vaccine, you couldn't go anywhere without your vaccine card. Couldn't go to your favorite bar, restaurant, sporting event. Your weddings were more difficult. You may be fired from your job. And I think that, too, was seen as overreach. And I think when RFK Jr., one of the 2 things RFK Jr. has said that I agree with, and it really, I think, is only 2, but the one thing that he said that I agree with, he said that he was a product, as Secretary of Health and Human Services, of this COVID pandemic. I think that's right. I think we leaned into a libertarian left hook, and we're feeling the punch. The other thing, by the way, he said that I agree with was when he said, don't get your medical advice from me. Those 2 things.
He did say that. So let's go back, because you were involved in the development of the vaccine. But I'm intrigued by this because in a world where everything is polarized, your view on public health and vaccination is you're by no means an extremist. You actually make this point that we are asking people to put things into their body that they don't understand. And there's this very fine line between convincing people that the advisory committee and the CDC and these people are studying things and developing things that are good for you, and the government seeming to mandate things. But ever since we were kids, the government has mandated that you can't go to school if you don't get vaccines. What pivoted? What became the thing where people said it's too much? Do you believe that that was COVID?
I think it's been a few things. I do think there's two major forces at work. I think the first is that people don't see these diseases anymore. I mean,
Because you were influenced by, for instance, polio, but you knew there was polio at one time. Now we don't think about polio.
Well, I was born before the polio vaccine. I'm that old, but so I was born in the early 50s. The polio vaccine came out in 55, but my parents, were children in the 20s. They saw 8,000 children die of whooping cough a year. They saw 15,000 children die of diphtheria every year. I was a child of the early 1950s. I had measles, I had mumps, I had German measles. You didn't have to convince me how important it was to vaccinate our children. I actually was a resident in pediatrics at Children's in Pittsburgh in the late 70s, between 77 and 80. We would do these 12-hour emergency department shifts. I would do 1 to 2 to 3 spinal taps a night because we didn't have a Haemophilus influenza B vaccine. We didn't have a pneumococcal vaccine. Didn't have a meningococcal vaccine. Most residents at pediatrics at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia today don't do spinal taps. They don't know how to do them. It's usually the interventional radiologist that does them. And my children are children of the 90s, so they didn't, not only did they not see these diseases, they didn't grow up with these diseases, and that's it. So on the one, you don't fear the disease. On the other hand, there's a massive amount of misinformation about there that scares the hell out of you about vaccines. Those two things, I think, contribute to what we're seeing now.
So I want to start with the first one. Vaccine denialism, I don't know how you said it, but it's almost like we're a victim of our own success. Because we don't, in fact, we've got a lot of measles now, but it was eradicated for all intents and purposes. There are things that were completely eradicated, so they're abstractions. The parent may say, I don't know why my kids are getting all this, but they're abstractions. We're not thinking about the disease, and we're not thinking too much about the vaccine. Is it changing now because people are actually getting measles, or because a whole bunch of people died? RFK can't give you a number, but people did actually die of COVID and communicable diseases. People are dying of influenza at rates we have not seen before, or children are.
Right, so you're right. I mean, I think that we eliminated measles from this country in the year 2000. But while eliminating it, we only didn't, not just eliminate the disease, we eliminated the memory of the disease. I don't think people remember how sick or dead that virus can make you. I mean, when children come into our hospital with fever and rash, sometimes I was called down to come down and see whether or not it's measles, because I can tell really in 30 seconds whether someone has measles. It makes you that sick.
Wow.
But I've had, recently, physicians have come up to me and said, I've never seen a case of measles, which is amazing because I grew up at a time when there were 3 to 4 million cases of measles a year.
Wow.
So that's part of it. You're right. We've eliminated the memory of measles, and I think that's the problem. I'll give you a more specific example. The inventor of the measles vaccine, the current measles vaccine, the so-called Moreton strain of measles vaccine, was Maurice Hilleman. Came out in 1968. He was dying of disseminated pancreatic cancer in 2004. I interviewed him for a book I was writing about him, and at that point, there was starting to be an erosion in vaccine rates. You were starting to see measles come back a little bit. And I said to him, is there any way we can convince people about the serious nature of this disease and the importance of the vaccine, or does the virus have to come back? Do people have to get sick again in order to appreciate this virus? And he spent a long time before he answered that question. And then he looked back at me with a tear in his eye and said, no. I think the disease is going to have to come back to some extent. And I think he's right. And I think it is, you're starting to see measles vaccine rates starting to come up a little bit because people are starting to get somewhat more scared of that virus, which is...
Can you just, for those who don't know, and I'm sure everybody now knows, measles is very different than COVID in terms of the rate at which it can spread amongst unvaccinated people and the specific danger for children who cannot be vaccinated in many cases against it for a certain period in their earliest years.
You know, measles, again, when I was a child, measles caused 3 to 4 million cases a year and 48,000 hospitalizations a year with severe dehydration, severe pneumonia, or encephalitis, meaning inflammation of the brain. That was a feared disease. COVID is like measles, spread by the respiratory route. It certainly can be highly contagious. And if you look at the COVID vaccine, in that first year, 2021, you were 12 times more likely to be hospitalized and die from COVID if you weren't vaccinated than if you were. The following year, it was 6-fold more likely to be hospitalized and die. I think the data could not have been clearer that that vaccine was safe and effective and could save your health. Nonetheless, by July of 2021, we'd vaccinated 70% of the population, which was an amazing feat. And then we just hit a wall. There were people that didn't want to do that. I want to say one thing, just there were three heroes of this pandemic. One was Drew Weissman and Katie Carrico, because they formed a collaboration in 1997.
That's right.
Our own.
1997, important for people to remember. People were
1997.
working on this disease
Right,
for a
since
long
97,
time.
Right, and so they won the Nobel Prize in 2023 for that work. The second was people at NIH, like Barney Graham, because they started working on an mRNA SARS-1 vaccine, right, in like 2002, 2003. So you had 20 years of information about how to make a SARS-1 mRNA vaccine. We never needed that vaccine because the virus never came into this country. And the third hero was Operation Warp Speed. I think that was like, I think it was one of the greatest accomplishments of the Trump administration, because they basically took the risk out of it for pharmaceutical companies. I think that he could have called it Trump Warp Speed, but I think he didn't, because at his heart he's a deeply modest man who doesn't like to put his name on things.
Knowing what you know now, because I think this observation about what people, whether you think it was government overreach or not, but what became sort of a pillar of medical libertarianism, what would you have done differently, knowing what you know now about how it gave birth to this group of people who didn't want the government in their lives as it related to a vaccine? It's interesting because they're okay with medical intervention on other things, but with vaccine. What might you have done differently?
I do think we could have. First of all, I don't think this was our fault. I think we were trying to do the best we could.
Right.
I do think that we could have involved the business community more in terms of how to work within the business community where people were less likely to be exposed. Same thing with the educational community. I think that especially children who had special needs, I think they really suffered during this pandemic. And it was sort of this top-down, this is what you're going to do, dictatorial approach. But I don't think people realize how well-funded the anti-vaccine movement is. I mean, you take a group like in the Informed Consent Action Network, they have a lawyer working for them named Aaron Seary, who makes $6 million a year to be an anti-vaccine activist. I mean, the misinformation business is much better than the information business. They're very good at getting their information out there.
And by the way, it's been around, it was the root of the misinformation business that we've got about everything today. The medical misinformation has been around for longer. It figured out the internet before even political misinformation figured out the internet.
Right, no, I agree. And so what you have as a result is you have what is euphemistically called the medical freedom movement, meaning I will do what I want to do for what I think is best for my family. And RFK Jr. encourages this by saying, don't trust your doctors, don't trust the hospitals, you're your own expert. Don't trust the experts, which is, and so you'll make your own decision, which will often be made based on bad information that you find on the internet. And that sort of conflicts with public health. I mean, with public health, you make recommendations. So we have had 18 vaccines for which we made our recommendations, and RFK Jr. tried to winnow that down to 10. Fortunately, a court recently just overturned that, but that because he wants it to just basically be optional. And so that's in contrast to public health, where you make a recommendation for everybody. There's one story that's I think important here. There was a measles outbreak that started in Southern California in 2014, 2015, spread to 25 states, infected about 300 people. And so there was a state senator in California named Richard Pan who wanted to eliminate the philosophical exemption to vaccination in a state that didn't have a religious exemption to vaccination. So therefore, there would only be medical exemptions. So, and he was, in the end, successful at doing that. But the anti-vaccine people hated this, right? Don't take away their ability to exempt themselves from vaccine. So there was a little boy named Luke Crowett, who was a 7-year-old with leukemia. And he would go to those meetings. He was little, so they would have to put him on a stool so he could reach the microphone. And he would say, my name's Luke. I have leukemia. I depend on you to protect me. Don't I count? And that's it. It's the "don't I count" movement, right? I mean, versus the medical freedom movement. I mean, I think the Isaiah Berlin line is, freedom for the liberty for the wolf is freedom is death to the lamb. I mean, we do have a responsibility for our neighbors. There's 10 million people in this country who can't be vaccinated. Right. It's not your right to catch and transmit a potentially fatal infection.
Talk to me about where the line exists or should exist between people on the advisory committees or in government who are skeptical in a science-positive way. Because I do want somebody who doesn't think that everybody should inject everybody with everything. I want somebody who's going to be at a table and pushing back versus this vaccine denialism. It's not skepticism, really. It's something else. It's a different flavor.
Right, it's science denialism, or this notion of conspiracy. So I was on the FDA's Vaccine Advisory Committee from 2017 to 2025. So that took us through the pandemic. I'll give you a specific example. In August of 2021, President Biden stood up and said, as of September 2021, we are going to have a third dose of this mRNA SARS-CoV-2 COVID vaccine. Now, that didn't really comport with the data, not well. And so this was before the Omicron variant came into the country. Really, 2 doses seemed to work fine at that point. And so he bypassed the CDC, he bypassed the FDA, and just declared that this is what we were going to do. So our committee met right before that was supposed to go into effect and voted no, as did the CDC voted no. That's skepticism. It's good to be skeptical. Prove that something works. Prove that it's safe. That's good. This sort of denialism is just, I don't believe anything you say. I don't believe those data.
I want to ask you, you mentioned the heroes of COVID, and you mentioned the NIH. And literally until last spring, I think most Americans didn't give the NIH much thought. We certainly talked to the NIH a lot during COVID. But what I think people didn't get is that the NIH has, for its entire existence and until last year, was involved in research that hopefully you never know about and you never need to know. But one day when I show up to a hospital and someone like you diagnoses me with some sort of a disease and then tells me there's a drug or there's a trial or there's an experiment because someone's been sitting in the NIH working on something for 5, 10, 15, 20 years that you didn't know about and you didn't need to know about. I don't need to know what the NIH is doing. I need to trust that the NIH is doing something, and there is no greater return on my taxpayer dollar than that sort of research.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, we look, when that SARS-CoV-2 vaccine came out in December of 2020, the virus came into this country in January of 2020, started killing people by February. 11 months later, we'd done 2 large clinical trials, and everybody looked at that and said, that is way too fast. I mean, that's way too fast to make a vaccine, but they're missing this sort of area under the curve there, and that
there was decades of work.
Right, and so when NIH started working on an mRNA SARS-1 vaccine, we had a lot of information. So when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. takes $500 million out of the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, which was looking at an mRNA for bird flu, that is crippling. And I think bird flu may never be a pandemic, but you certainly would learn a lot from those kind of data. And I think people don't see that. They don't see the area under
But
there.
fundamentally, even in the last year, there's 2 pieces of damage done. One is the money that's been pulled out, either the university grants or the NIH grants. And 2 is this question of inserting discrediting and inserting mistrust into a system that took decades to build trust in. Is that even fixable if RFK is not on the job?
I think it'll take a while. I do. I think it's going to take us a while to realize the mistake we've made, and I think that our children are going to pay for this. I think that what you've seen over in 2025, we had the biggest measles epidemic we've had in 33 years. We had 3 people die. That equals the total number of measles deaths over the previous 25 years. We had 2 healthy little girls die in West Texas, 6 and 8 year old unvaccinated girls. That's the first child death since 2003. We had 13 whooping cough deaths last year in states that hadn't seen whooping cough deaths. We had almost 300 children die of influenza last year, and more than 100 this year, at the same time that you see Robert F. Kennedy Jr. going on CBS News and saying, and I quote, "I don't think children really need an influenza vaccine." I mean, it is hard to watch. It's like a world gone mad. You can't believe what you're seeing.
And it's one thing if you say, I have conscientious objections, philosophical objections, religious objections, but in Texas and some of these places where we've seen these measles outbreaks, we've got people going to the general store and buying cod liver oil because they're not just convinced that they don't want the vaccine, but that there are other cures. There was something for which people were saying, take a potato and rub it on your child's feet. It's bullshit.
No, that works. No, just kidding. No, I think so that's RFK Jr. represents that. I mean, that you can just treat it. When those 2 little girls died in West Texas, he said they were in a food desert. Wrong. He said they were immunocompromised, that they were malnourished. Wrong. He recommended vitamin A. He actually sent vitamin A to West Texas, sent it there, and vitamin A does not work in this country to prevent you from being hospitalized with measles because vitamin A deficiency is very rare in this country. But he believes that. He believes in sort of treatment. And when these children, for example, now, those children died of measles, he blames the hospital because it can't be that they didn't get a vaccine, even though that's exactly why they were hospitalized, because they didn't get a vaccine. It's just, he can't, think about everything that's happened. He's the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Use your considerable, famous name and platform and get up there and say, vaccinate your children. He can't do it. I mean, you watch him, he'll say, the most he'll say now is, that it works for most people, he'll say, or it probably works. He looks like he's making a hostage video. This is clearly not something he's comfortable saying.
So this administration's averaging roughly losing one cabinet secretary a week. We lost the labor secretary this week. Kash Patel's in some hot water. I won't say any more than that because he's suing everybody who says anything about him. But when in the betting markets where they talk about who's next, there's always this thing about, well, who's done more damage? Under Kristi Noem, people were shot and arrested. Under Pete Hegseth, we've got a war going on that no one can explain. But really, most people come around to RFK being perhaps the most deadly person in this administration.
I agree. He means it. He's a zealot. I mean, if you read his book, The Real Anthony Fauci, and I don't recommend it, it's inscrutable and very difficult to get through, but if you just look at pages 285 to 288, you will learn that our Secretary of Health and Human Services does not believe in the germ theory. He does not believe that specific germs cause specific diseases.
Well, he had a very colorful anecdote about snorting cocaine off a toilet seat, so he's not scared of germs. I don't know how that immunizes you, but whatever. Talk to me for a minute about rotavirus, please.
Right, so I was fortunate enough to be part of a team at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia with Stanley Plotkin and Fred Clark that it was a 26-year effort to create a vaccine against rotavirus, which is a virus that infects basically all children by 10 years of age. It's a common cause of fever, diarrhea, and vomiting in the less than 2-year-old. And it accounted in this country for about 70,000 hospitalizations a year for severe dehydration and 20 to 60 deaths. But in the world, it was the single biggest killer of infants and young children. It would kill about 500,000 children a year, as many as 2,000 children a day. So now, because of groups like the World Health Organization or Bill and Melinda Gates, that vaccine is now getting out there and is expected or is anticipated to save roughly, or is estimated to save roughly 165,000 lives a year. So thank you, Children's Hospital Philadelphia.
And thank you. You don't name yourself, but thank you for all this. Paul, you and I could talk for hours, but I'm about to get the hook. The Citizen of the Year, Paul Offit. If you haven't read about him, now you need to.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage President and CEO of the Committee of 70, Lauren Cristella.
Hello, everyone. The Committee of 70 nominated Charlie McGeehan for this award, and when I tell you it was not a hard sell, I mean it. Our whole team at the Committee of 70 enthusiastically supported his nomination, and here's why. Charlie is an all-star, and for years, he's been one of our closest partners in making democracy real for young Philadelphians. His students at the Academy at Palumbo don't just read about how elections work, they run them. Every election cycle, nearly 100 of his students sign up to serve as poll workers. These are 17-year-olds who are legally allowed to staff our polling places in Pennsylvania. And Charlie sends them in there prepared, excited, and proud. He doesn't just teach them the civics chapter on voting. He puts them in polling places on the front lines of our democracy. His students have also sat across the table from candidates, conducting interviews for C70's Interactive Voter Guide, which went live on Monday. They asked the questions. They pressed for answers. They did the work of informed citizens before they were even old enough to cast a vote. And he works alongside us in the PA Civics Coalition, fighting as recently as just last summer for the Philadelphia School District to restore funding to the social studies curriculum. Because for Charlie, this isn't a solo act, it's a movement. What makes Charlie extraordinary, and what makes him the embodiment of everything the Committee of 70 and everyone who nominated him for this award believes civic education should be, is this. He doesn't just teach students about the system. He teaches them that the system can hear them. It can work if they work it. He teaches them that a 17-year-old can walk into city council and testify, and that a city council member will listen and will introduce a resolution because of what they said. That is exactly what the Committee of 70 and the PA Civics Coalition mean when we talk about civic education done right. It's not enough to teach students what the system is. The goal is to make them understand why it matters and to give them the skills, the confidence, and instill the habit of showing up. An informed citizenry isn't born, it's built. One classroom at a time, by teachers who believe their students have a stake in this democracy and they deserve the tools to act on it. Charlie McGeehan is building it, and Philadelphia is better for it. Please join me in celebrating the 2026 Educator of the Year, Charlie McGeehan.
From El Barrio to Arecibo, Balance. From Marble Hill to the...
Give me just a moment to get my speech out. First off, I want to thank Lauren for all those very kind words. I've truly appreciated working with the Committee of 70 in my classroom, and it's added so much to our students, so thank you. I want to thank the Philadelphia Citizen as well for this honor. I'm glad that I can always rely on you for informative articles about candidates running in local judicial primary elections when no one else has those articles. I also want to thank my wife, Emily, who is here with me tonight. My passion for teaching means that I give it a lot of my energy. Thank you for putting up with me, even as I continue to overextend myself. I love you. I also want to thank my kids, Ella and Sebastian, who are brilliant and wild and have helped ground me in what really matters. I've been an educator in Philadelphia for the past 15 years, and I would not have been able to sustain my teaching career without a community of educators across the city and district. I am forever indebted to organizations like Teacher Action Group, the Caucus of Working Educators, and Building Anti-Racist White Educators. I want to dedicate this award to one of the educators I've worked with over these years, Keziah Ridgway. She is a powerful Black Muslim educator who is deeply committed to supporting young people and helping them understand the truth of our history and of our present. Keziah has been fiercely attacked in public for speaking about the ongoing genocide in Gaza, and instead of protecting Keziah, the district shamefully punished her. Keziah is owed a public apology, and all educators should be supported and uplifted in our efforts to teach truth. As James Baldwin said in his 1963 talk to teachers, we are living through a very dangerous time. So many of the young people I teach are under attack based on who they are, what they look like, or where their family is from. Trans students are seeing their access to healthcare, bathrooms, sports, and even just living as themselves under attack daily, while elected officials and too much of the media stand silent. Youth who are immigrants and kids of immigrants are upending their lives and facing new fears and responsibilities because of the constant threats by ICE on our communities. And unfortunately, education itself is increasingly dehumanizing, with an overwhelming focus on standardized testing, administrative mandates, data, punishment, and AI. I come from a lineage of educators. Both of my parents, Claire and Charlie, were teachers, and 3 of my 4 grandparents were as well. They showed me how to keep the nonsense imposed on teachers and students at arm's length while focusing on what truly matters: loving the young people we work with, caring for them as best we can, and helping them to grow while building community. I accept this award in their memory. My students are the reason I am here. One of the things they tell me they most appreciate about me as a teacher is that I work to make every student feel seen. With 5 classes and an advisory maxed out at nearly 33 students, this isn't easy. but I think it's the most important aspect of my work. One of my students told me that I should tell you, kids are the future, treat them like it. This feels easy, but sadly is incredibly rare. Too often, those in power use young people when it feels convenient, but ignore their voices when it isn't. The clearest example I've seen was the proposed Sixers arena that threatened to decimate Chinatown, a place that young people across identities love. When they wrote to elected officials or even testified, they were ignored by 12 council members and our mayor. If they had listened, they could have avoided a vote that was harmful and ultimately embarrassing. My civics classes have increasingly centered around an action project where students identify a social issue by class-wide consensus, research it, and take various forms of actions. This year's projects focus on funding for our schools, improving sex education, addressing the intersections of domestic and gun violence, and opportunities and third spaces for youths. In every case, a huge aspect of their work is the investment we should make in young people and survivors, but too often we don't. I see budgets as moral documents. More than $1 billion of Mayor Parker's proposed 2027 budget is devoted to policing and prisons, while only $89 million is devoted to parks and recreation. So it should be no surprise that there are few places that embrace and support teens in our city, and meaningful opportunities for youth are difficult to find. It has been over 3 years since Pennsylvania's school funding was declared unconstitutional. But even Governor Shapiro's proposed 2027 funding increase leaves Philadelphia schools underfunded by $1 billion. Schools are cutting necessary positions as we speak. The district is planning to close 17 schools, and students have been advocating for years at my school for basic fixes to our bathrooms, like stalls that close or sinks that work. In the district's current plan, my school's bathrooms won't start getting fixed for another 6 years. And that is only if state or philanthropic funding increases. We should and we can, as a city, state, and country, make different choices. The youth of our city deserve validation for their identities and full funding for their dreams. I plan to continue teaching them how to advocate and make noise to ensure this happens, and I hope that all of you in this room will use your power to join us. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage founding director of the Forman Family Foundation and citizen board member, Jennifer Rice.
Good evening. As our announcer mentioned, I am a proud Citizen Media Group board member, and it is my pleasure to introduce Keisha Hudson, who is this year's Social Justice Champion of the Year. Before I tell you about Keisha's background and her many accomplishments, I want to share a question that I sometimes find difficult to answer. That question is a simple one. How are you? We're asked it probably several times a day, and we ask other people several times a day, how are you? But these days, when I answer that question, I find it requires a qualifier. I often say, putting current events aside, I'm okay, or I'm doing fine, but it feels like the world is a little crazy. But here's the thing. There are thousands of people in our communities, people we know, people we respect, people we may work with, who don't have the luxury of ignoring current events. These people are under threat and in danger specifically because of current events. Keisha Hudson is the person who spends every day fighting for those people through advocacy and representation. And I'm so glad we have someone like her. Hudson's interest in helping immigrant communities is informed by her own experience. She was a teenager in 1992 when she left Jamaica to join her mother in the United States. She eventually made her way to Cornell University Law School, where she graduated in 2002. While there, she worked on the death penalty project. As Keisha has described, that experience left me with the certainty that I needed my law degree to work for and with those society has abandoned. After Cornell, she went to the Defender Association of Philadelphia, and in 2006, she joined the Federal Community Defender of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. After 16 years in that role, she took a position as Deputy Chief Public Defender and Director of Training in Montgomery County, where her advocacy focused on the indigent community. What I didn't know until meeting Keisha is that Pennsylvania ranked 45th nationally for indigent defense spending until 2023, when Governor Josh Shapiro allocated $7.5 million in support. In spite of a lack of resources, Hudson was able to expand the impact of her office and the training provided to the public defender staff. Sadly, in 2020, Hudson's position was terminated in retaliation for an amicus brief she helped file in support of an ACLU of Pennsylvania lawsuit demanding an end to illegal bail practices in Philadelphia. But luckily, that firing laid the path for Hudson to return to the office where she started. She is now the Chief Public Defender for the Defender Association of Philadelphia, where she has tirelessly raised funds to create a dedicated immigration law practice with 6 attorneys providing free representation to immigrants and asylum seekers detained under the Trump administration's mass deportation strategy. She has raised over $1 million to support the program. Her office currently already has 123 immigrant clients with deportation orders, and she estimates roughly 2,440 immigrants are currently detained across 5 different facilities in Pennsylvania. Hudson sees her work as a natural extension of the public defender's duty, ensuring even the most vulnerable people receive their constitutional guarantee of due process, regardless of immigration status. With that, I'd like to invite Keisha to the podium and congratulate you on being the Social Justice Champion of the Year.
Live if you wanna live, Rastaman, vibration, yeah. Positive.
Good evening. I am so deeply honored to be named the Social Justice Champion of the Year by the Philadelphia Citizen. I am an immigrant from Jamaica. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. My mother immigrated when I was 11 years old, and her story and her path is one that mirrors the story and path of so many people who come to this country. She was a nurse in Jamaica and was recruited by a hospital in the Bronx because they had a shortage of nurses in the 80s. And she made the difficult decision to leave her 2 children. I was then 11, my brother was 10, and she immigrated to the United States to be a nurse. And she worked as a nurse in the ER in the Bronx for 45 years. I did not see my mother. I saw her twice in 4 years. And as a mother to 2 beautiful children, Maya and Zoe, I cannot imagine the sacrifice that she made to leave her children behind to make a better life for us. And so I was raised by my grandmother for those 4 years, and one of several dedications I'll make for this award tonight is to my mother, Marcia, June Scott Hudson, and my grandmother, Norma Louise Scott. Incredibly women. I'm really, truly grateful to the Philadelphia Citizen. When I became chief defender in 2021, we had a really immense budget push, and the Citizen published an article in their series, Ideas We Should Steal. And one of their big push that year in 2022 was fund public defense. Right? So I represent the people that are in the margins. Who are my clients? Right? My clients are people who qualify for a public defender because they are poor. You do not get a public defender unless you qualify because you are what we call indigent. That means you cannot afford a lawyer. We are the only constitutionally required lawyers, public defenders. That's us. And in Philadelphia, my budget is 1% of the overall city's budget. 1%. The policing and law enforcement budget in the city of Philadelphia is almost at 20%. So we are charged with representing people who are poor, who cannot afford counsel, who my adult clients, 84% of whom are black and brown, my children clients, 92% of who are black and brown, and we lead the nation in the number of children who are removed from their families and placed into dependency and the foster care system. We are number 1 in Philadelphia, and we have a child advocacy unit that represents those children. Last year, we represented 34,000 people in Philadelphia, people who have been left in the margins. And I want to shout out public defenders. We are having a day of action tomorrow to highlight the gross underfunding of public defense, that not just in Philadelphia, but across the nation. Nationally, you should be funding public defense at around $28 billion a year, and we are at $6.1 billion a year here nationally. It's by design. When we look at who is brought into the system and how they come into the system, there are people who have been systemically, over generations, communities and families that have faced deep poverty and disinvestment, and communities that have been terrorized by environmental racism, redlining, and people who live, again, in the margins. I'm particularly honored that the Citizen is giving me this award because we have formed our first immigration legal practice. And as an immigrant, there was absolutely no question that we needed to do this as a public defender office. This was a population that we had to represent. We had to answer the call and rise to the moment to represent them. And in addition to my beautiful mother and grandmother, I do want to dedicate this award to Lila Thompson and our immigration legal practice. She's the head of our new immigration legal practice, which was formed in January. And Lila and her team are doing incredible, incredible work. And we are winning because everyone is being detained illegally. Right? And we are winning their release and getting them home and getting them back to their families. So Lila, the immigration unit exists because of your brilliance and your relentless commitment to our clients. Every day you bring compassion and rigor and an incredible work ethic. I don't think Lila sleeps, and I'm concerned about that, but an incredible work ethic that is as complex as it is urgent, and I am so proud to stand with you and dedicate this award to you. This recognition is not just about me, it's about people we serve. It is about our clients who wake up every day navigating fear, uncertainty in a system that too often treats them as invisible or other or subhuman. It is about families who are fighting to stay together. It is about children who deserve stability and dignity and the chance to simply be children. Founding and launching the Defender Association's first immigration defense unit was rooted in a simple but urgent belief that justice should not depend on where you were born, and that regardless of how you got here, immigrants belong here. We're all immigrants. We built this country. At the Defender Association, we knew we had to do something different. For too long, immigration consequences have operated in the shadows of the criminal legal system, separating families, destabilizing communities, and doing irreversible harm without adequate defense. I am so proud of our unit, but we can only represent 14% of the people who need legal counsel right now that are in ICE detention. 14%. We have a $950,000 budget from the city of Philadelphia. Mayor Parker did not increase that line item this year, so despite what we have seen in the past year under the Trump administration, the mayor has proposed only sustaining the $950,000 budget. We are only working in Philadelphia. There is no legal representation, sustained legal representation for people and immigrants and non-citizens outside of Philadelphia. None. We are it in the entire Commonwealth. I want to shout out the people who have stepped into the moment, the Stoneleigh Foundation, the Independence Foundation, Spring Point Partners, foundations that have stepped up to support us, to sustain and expand the work that we do. But again, 14%. We have 6 lawyers doing removal defense work, and if we had to meet the moment here in Pennsylvania, we would need 130 lawyers for those who need counsel. There is a lot of work to do, so much work ahead. It is exhausting work, it is traumatizing work, but we are doing the work. And that's who we are, that's who public defenders have always been, under-resourced, underfunded, and walking in the margins with the people who need it most. So thank you to the Philadelphia Citizen for this honor, for shining a light on this issue, for shining a light on the establishment of our unit. We are actively fundraising, we are actively pushing both the mayor and city council to increase the funding so that we can represent everyone who needs to be represented, not just in Philadelphia, but we want to expand statewide. And I will end with this. I have some members of my team here. It is Administrative Professionals Day, and I would really not be able to do what I do without Catherine Benko, who is here today. And first and foremost, we are the best trial office in the country. We excel at what we do. Thank you, Stephanie Fennell, Deputy Defender, who is an incremental and important part of our training and supervision of the best lawyers in not just Pennsylvania, but in the country. And Jordan Clark, who heads our social services units, and Christina Tavares, who ensures that we remain an anti-racist organization and that we commit to our values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, words that we will never abandon, despite how the rest of the country has cowered. And finally, to my husband, Sam Brooks, who is a genius in his own right, a national expert in nursing home reform and residents advocacy. I could not do what I do without my husband, who is the present and constant parent in our home. And finally, again, thank you, the Philadelphia Citizen, for this honor and for standing with us in the fight for justice for our immigrant communities. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the screens in front for a special presentation.
Good evening and congratulations to all of tonight's Philadelphia Citizen of the Year honorees. I'm sorry to miss such a joyful and inspiring event, one that perfectly captures Philadelphia at its best, showing up for those who serve others. Now, before I introduce this year's Youth Citizen of the Year, I would like to recognize 6 outstanding Penn friends who are rightly being celebrated tonight. They are Dr. Carl June and Jeff Marrazzo, Dr. Paul Offit, Charlie McGeehan, and Leigh and John Middleton. Congratulations to all of tonight's winners on your well-deserved recognition. On behalf of the entire University of Pennsylvania community, it is now my pleasure to introduce Philadelphia native and Penn senior Yuvaraj Gambhir. He is the 2026 Youth Citizen of the Year. At age 3, Yuva was diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, also known as DMD, the most severe form of muscular dystrophy, a progressive disorder. It is X-linked and therefore relatively common, affecting hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Despite the challenges of DMD, Yuva has never allowed the condition to define his ambition or impact. At an early age, Yuva became a powerful advocate for the DMD community in Philadelphia. He has educated, organized, and inspired others with an unwavering commitment to advancing research and support. To date, he has raised $3 million for DMD research, an extraordinary achievement that showcases his relentless focus on improving treatments and accelerating medical breakthroughs and strengthening support for those living with DMD. Yuva, you will be happy to know that when I was 10 years old, I gave my entire coin collection to the Jerry Lewis March of Dimes Foundation. This is a modest amount compared to the funds you have raised, but it was important to me. Yuva also brings enormous energy and accomplishment to Penn. He will graduate in May with a double major in cognitive science and computer science. He has researched the underpinnings of DMD in a Penn gene therapy lab. He explored the funding side of medical research. He loves music, producing it and DJing Indian techno fusion, and he meditates. He even founded a tech company. It's called Fan Coach, an app designed to bring people together through sports, an endeavor that he plans to pursue after full-time graduation. Yuva embodies core Penn values, advancing discovery and expanding opportunity toward a better future for all. He shows us what resilience and community truly look like, and it is an honor to celebrate him with you.
Now welcome to the stage, Yuvaraj Gambhir.
I want to start by thanking my parents, who got a hard diagnosis when I was just 3 years old and decided to do something about it. I also want to thank my sister, Jasmine. We're both Penn students, and we're graduating together in a month. Thank you to my grandfather, who made it out here tonight. He got his PhD from Penn and taught there for over 30 years. And thank you to all my great friends who also made it out here tonight. And of course, I want to thank the team at Cure Duchenne, who fund the research that's changing the future for people living with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, the condition I deal with. And thank you to the whole Citizen team and every fellow honoree in this room. It's really a privilege to be here with all of you tonight. So the last time I was in Fiddler Club in this very ballroom, I was DJing for a party. And I'll be honest, it definitely feels a lot more daunting being up here right now without a MacBook and headphones blasting electronic music. And shout out, by the way, to the DJ here tonight. One of the reasons that I love to DJ is that moment where you feel a room shift. People stop being strangers, conversations open up, and everyone locks into the same energy. And there's a term for it in sociology: collective effervescence. It's the force that builds when people share something joyful together. You can feel it at Citizens Bank Park, you can feel it at Lincoln Financial, and you can feel it right here in this room right now. And I think one of Philadelphia's most beloved voices captured this idea of collective effervescence perfectly. He put it with such poise and elegance when he said, "No one likes us, no one likes us, no one likes us, we don't care. We're from Philly, we're from Philly. No one likes us, we don't care. That was Jason Kelsey in a mummer's costume at the Super Bowl parade. And I think what that chant really captures is a declaration of collective power. When a group of people locks in together, truly together, it doesn't matter what's coming from the outside. Whether that's nobody liking us, the obstacles, the odds, none of it matters, because the energy inside the collective is stronger than anything working against it. I know this firsthand. Back when I was diagnosed with this condition, the life expectancy was around 20 years old, and there were no treatments on the horizon. And a lot has changed since then, thanks to decades of research and work by scientists and doctors around the world, and right here in Philadelphia. My family, scientists, and so many other families in this community locked in together. Year after year, people showed up for our cause, and something real grew out of that. The odds said to stop, but we kept going anyway. And that's what this city does. The Eagles faced a dynasty and took them down 40-22. The researchers at Penn and CHOP faced diseases that people said were incurable and pushed through anyway, pioneering breakthroughs in gene therapy and other treatments right here in labs a few blocks from where we're sitting. And some of those people are in this room tonight. Treatments exist today that were unthinkable when I was born, and many of them were made possible in this city. This is a city that will do whatever it takes, whether that's a tush-push on 4th and Inches, or researchers staying late in the lab until midnight because one more experiment might be the one. We're the city of brotherly love, and I know that's not always the reputation we get. GQ magazine once ranked Philadelphia as the most hostile fan base in all of America. But honestly, I think we took that as a compliment. Because what gets read as hostility is really just a city that cares too much to sit still. This city goes all in on everything. And when Philadelphia decides something matters, a game, a cause, a kid with a diagnosis, it does not stop. So let's keep doing what we as Philadelphians do best. Keep locking in together, keep caring all the way, and when the odds are long and the doubters are loud, we're from Philly, no one likes us, but we don't care. Thank you for this award, and I'm proud to call this city home.
On the evening of April 17th, 2012, Carl June changed the world. On that night, a 6-year-old leukemia patient, Emily Whitehead, lay in a hospital bed, weeks, perhaps even days, away from death. Every remedy had failed, so her mother had agreed to the radical new CAR-T genetic treatment from Dr. June. Developed over 20 years of his legendary research in the Navy and the University of Pennsylvania, it meant extracting Emily's T cells, genetically re-engineering them to attack the leukemia, then putting them back in her bloodstream. As these new T cells assaulted that cancer, Emily's temperature rose to 105 degrees, evidence of that fierce battle. But only hours later, not days, but hours, Emily was cancer-free and has remained so in the years since. This Carl June miracle has opened up unlimited new possibility for disease treatment. and his research staff has grown from 2 to over 200 right here in Philadelphia, laser focused on scores of new applications for his miraculous approach. Which brings me to the astonishing Jeff Marrazzo. From the research legacy of Dr. June and so many others at Penn came his Spark Therapeutics, the world's first fully integrated commercial gene therapy company. And in assembling that company, Jeff showed that magnificent new businesses can be built that take these breathtaking biotech discoveries to the world. After the record-setting sale of that company, he is now tirelessly and often selflessly working with a myriad of companies and hundreds of biotech entrepreneurs to bring hope and miracles from here in Philadelphia to the world. But his efforts go far beyond even that. He is perhaps the leader in pushing forward the entire Commonwealth's biotech industry, consulted regularly by Governor Shapiro and his staff, committing countless hours to helping bring companies like Lilly and TerraPower Isotopes to our state, though he gives that credit to his equally extraordinary sister, Claire Marrazzo Greenwood. We Philadelphians could not be more fortunate than to have these two biotech giants, these two miracle workers among us. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Carl June and Jeff Marrazzo.
Well, I can say now that Emily Whitehead is a junior at the University of Pennsylvania, so she started off at Children's Hospital and it's completed a circle. So I'm really proud to be here tonight, and I want to thank the Philadelphia Citizen, for the incredible honor to be here, surrounded by so many people who are dedicated to make Philadelphia stronger and wiser and healthier. So I'm especially honored to share this Disruptor Award with my friend and colleague, Jeff Marrazzo. Jeff, your vision for building a sustainable biotech ecosystem right here in Philly is exactly the kind of disruption that this city and the industry needs. When people hear the word disruptor, they often think of breaking things. But in medicine, disruption is about breaking through. And it's about challenging the status quo where untreated is an acceptable answer and instead replacing it with cured. While Jeff and I stand here tonight, we are especially and essentially the tip of a very large and very hard-working iceberg. And science is never a solo sport. So I want to thank my incredible team at Penn Medicine, the University of Pennsylvania, the Center for Cellular Immunotherapies, and my lab. And I have my table at table 12. Could you please stand? They are, thank you. They are trainees in the lab that represent the next generation. You are the ones that are in the lab at 2 in the morning, meticulously engineering T cells that we call our serial killers for cancer. Your brilliance and your refusal to accept no for an answer are why thousands of parents who once had no hope are alive today, and thousands of patients. With Dispatch Therapeutics, which you're going to hear about from Jeff, we're embarking on a new disruption which is taking the lessons from CAR-T and aiming at a universal strategy to treat solid tumors. And this work belongs to the scientists and technicians and clinical staff here in this city that turn raw data into life-saving clinical trials. But science also requires a different kind of a support system, the kind that happens at home. And I want to thank my wife, Lisa, for that. Thank you for tolerating my overcommitments, as we heard before. So I want to thank you for your patience over these years. Finally, I want to address everyone in this room about extending what you heard from Paul Offit. We are living in a golden age of biology and science. You can't imagine what we have, the toolbox now. And Philadelphia is at the very center of it. But and we have breakthroughs like CAR-T, universal cancer treatments, but they don't happen in a vacuum. They require a society that values and treats and invests in fundamental science research and believes in facts. Today's science is often under fire. We see a growing skepticism of expertise and a tightening of resources that we need for blue sky research, the kind of research that doesn't have an immediate ROI, but eventually changes the world. I was working on car cells for 30 years before they worked. So my ask for you tonight is be a champion for science. We need it. Support the institutions that foster innovation. Advocate for funding that allows a young researcher to chase a crazy idea. Because today's disruptive idea is tomorrow's cure. We've proven that we can turn Philadelphia into a global hub for cell and gene therapy. There's a new ecosystem here. Let's ensure that we keep that momentum going. Thank you again for this honor, and let's keep disrupting.
Wow, this is really, it's humbling to share the stage, first and foremost with you, Carl. I appreciated our years of friendship, and I remember those days in 2012 that Richard was talking about earlier. It's also really an honor to be up here and to have shared this stage with so many of the other honorees that are here tonight. Dr. Offit, Jane, Middleton's, Yuva, and all the rest of the honorees. Really, it's humbling to be with you as well. Disruptor is a word that I've also come to embrace, but in a particular sense, and it echoes to the sentiments that Carl also shared. At Spark, we had a motto, which was that we don't follow footsteps, we create the path. And because real disruption is never done alone, it's always done together. And that's what I think this award is really about. I dare say what this night is really about. It's not any one of us, it's a city, to echo Yuva's brilliant many different ways that he expressed this, that refuses to follow footsteps, that refuses to do just what others have done before, but tries to break new ground. For me, this started when I was 15 years old. I watched my grandmother, who I was extremely close with at the time, lose her battle with lung cancer at one of the best cancer centers in the world. She was being treated at that point, and her treatment was brutal. Chemotherapy was blasting her entire body, trying to knock the cancer out faster than it was knocking her out. And she was gone within months. And something in me said, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a different way to do this. And it has motivated me ever since. It's shaped very much my career arc. At Spark, we used a disarmed virus to deliver a correct copy of a broken gene, giving a child born nearly blind the ability to see their mother's face. At Dispatch with Carl, what we're doing is once again taking a virus and we're pairing it with those car cells that Carl worked on for the last 30 years or more. But this time we're using that virus to paint tumors with a flare so that those car cells can find and kill only what's marked. And the idea, the bold idea, is that we might have the possibility of a universal approach where we could treat any type of cancer with that same flair and then send out instructions to T cells to go and kill those particular cells that are cancerous. That's precise, that's targeted, that's the opposite of carpet bombing. And this is what disruption looks like in medicine. It's bold ideas. These are complex, extraordinarily complex and devastating diseases, and they take bold ideas, and they take bold people, they take bold teams to follow and do the extraordinary work that happens in labs to make them happen. And I've seen firsthand how true disruption in medicine has lasting effects, but it also has wide-ranging effects. It changes a person's life, a family's life, first and foremost. And Dr. June's patients are alive today because he refused to accept what medicine said was impossible. But it also affects a broader group of people. In this case, it can affect an entire city or an entire region. In the last 3 months alone, as you heard Richard refer to, I'm particularly pleased and proud to see that Pennsylvania has landed nearly $5 billion of investments in the life sciences industry from 3 companies alone, Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, and TerraPower. And every one of those investments creates family-sustaining, high-paying jobs, and jobs that are incredibly meaningful. They're jobs that are vocations, frankly. They're the ability to contribute to the type of science that Carl and I are fortunate to be a part of, with all the people in his lab and in this room that work on it. And the third group I think it inspires is it can inspire the next generation. My wife and I, Ellie, who's here with us tonight, started the Family Foundation to foster creativity in Philadelphia's young people. And whether it's Dr. June and his colleagues in his lab, whether it's Jane's work in participatory public art, whether it's the Middlemans and the galleries that you're so graciously blessing with your art, whether it's Charlie's Classroom, these are all examples of humans' capacity to imagine and create. And if we do our job right, the next disruptor is already among us in the next generation. So to Larry, Roxanne, David, Richard, Jennifer, all the folks at the Philadelphia Citizen, all of you working as reporters, thank you for this honor. And most importantly, thank you for telling the stories that remind us all what Philadelphia is capable of. And to Dr. June, thank you for being both the phenomenal scientist that you are, but just as important, the wonderful person that you are. And then, yeah. A couple of my colleagues, I also want to thank Kathy High, who's the person I was fortunate enough to work with in founding Spark, taking it from an idea and research that she had worked on for several decades herself in the area of gene transfer and bringing it into the efforts that we made at Spark and all the people that were part of the Spark family tree. It was about 850 of us when I stepped down a handful of years ago, and that those people keep branching across the city into other and new efforts. And to Sabah One and the rest of the team at Dispatch, who are continuing to work tirelessly, a small team. It's really, today we're doing all of this in an effort to try to address the vast majority of solid tumors with a team of about 50, 60 people. So it's a small but mighty effort. Unfortunately, my parents, who are doing their job as babysitters tonight, are not here. But I want to thank them and also my sister and her family that Richard mentioned before. Both my parents set the example for me and my sister about how to be a member of a community and a city and give back. And to Ellie and our kids, who are being taken care of by my parents, everything I do well, there's a lot that I don't, but everything I do well, I do so because of you. I love you. Thank you for all the support. Yuva, your words inspired me, and so maybe I'll just end by saying that this city is capable of a tremendous amount. As you told us, and shared with us. And I think the collective talent and spirit of this city can beat anything, can knock down disease, can address and reach really any heights. And I would ask us to keep creating the path. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next presenter is Mayor Michael Nutter.
Good evening. Yeah, well, that was pretty weak. Good evening. I mean, really? Wow. I mean, it's just tough being out of office, I tell you. Anyway, it's really great to be with you tonight. Can we please give another big round of applause to all of our award winners this evening? Larry, Roxanne, obviously, certainly David L. Cohen, DLC, Corey and Jessica, and the entire Philadelphia Citizen crew. Thanks a lot. This is clearly one of the best evenings in the city of Philadelphia, and just an incredible group of people that we get to spend a little time with. So the team has spent the past 24, 48, almost 72 hours concerned as to how long I'm going to speak. I've received numerous emails, text messages. The failure by the team was to not give me clear, detailed talking points. So, that's your fault. I'm at the microphone, so just talk as long as I want. No, I wouldn't do that. And Larry would be really pissed, and then I have to pay for it on the podcast. So it's all good. I'm here to give out, all of the awards have been incredible. This is equally, it's the Black Captain of the Year. So, in a much more serious way, obviously, I've had a few positions in my time. I was a committee person, I was a ward leader, a city councilman, and I had the honor, of course, of being the mayor of this great city. But try to imagine being the block captain of your block in Philadelphia. Depending on what block, 30, 40, 50, maybe 60 households that you are responsible for. You cannot escape them. They know exactly where you live. You will see them every day, everywhere you go, and try to get stuff done in this city. It's an incredible job, deserves a lot of recognition. And so where others saw dead ends, Mekia Elizabeth sees possibilities. An undeveloped plot of land in southwest Germantown neighborhood, that would be a great place, a perfect place for a fruit and vegetable garden. A rarely used and rundown parish house? Sounds like a clubhouse to me, and a safe after-school space. Her own front porch of her own house is now a coffee shop, and she hires local kids to staff it. Rumbling in the back. Mekia Elizabeth, her enthusiasm is infectious. In 6 years, she has spent building a small village within a bustling city. She's inspired dozens of dedicated neighbors to work to overcome problems that stem from race and age, income differences. Hers is a neighborhood where teenagers who were once viewed or there was concern there might be potential trouble, they now organize all ages summer events. And longtime residents get to display skills that they've had for a long time, just didn't have the opportunity to display them. For all she does, and all the planning to do all the things she's going to do, Philadelphia Citizen is honored to name Mekia Elizabeth as the 2026 Block Captain of the Year in Philadelphia. Okay?
Well, good evening, and thank you to the Philadelphia Citizen for this recognition. I'm truly grateful to receive it, but I want to honestly say that this work has never been about one person. What's happening on Fernhill Road and in the Fernhill Park community is the result of neighbors deciding to care for ourselves, for one another, and for the place we live. A few years ago, we put a small, free coffee station on our patio. It was supposed to be self-serve. It was supposed to be a finished space on an unfinished block where adults could gather to vision and enjoy a more beautiful experience of neighborhood life. But the neighborhood kids showed up first, and they had their own vision for the space, and they insisted on executing it themselves. The kids showed up first thing in the morning, some still in their Spider-Man onesie pajamas, greeting and serving neighbors, watering the plants, picking up litter, making drinks and treats, writing thank you notes for donations, collecting signatures for birthday cards, and no matter the temperature, drinking hot chocolate. And in response, the adult neighbors started bringing what they had to share. One neighbor bought bags of coffee beans, another bought juice boxes. Someone showed up with bagels, another neighbor dropped off apples, someone donated a toaster oven. Others bought coloring books, crayons, stickers, bikes, so kids would have something to do while the adults talked. People were eager to offer what they had so that the whole community could flourish. Those gifts even helped us offer a $2,500 college scholarship for one of our neighborhood youth who serves as a barista at our cafe. It turns out a community cafe wasn't all our neighbors had to offer. One neighbor offered a dedicated space for an after-school club and community gatherings. Our neighbors are growing a neighborhood food forest, building a children's play village, and hosting fun Fridays in the park, spaces where people of all ages and backgrounds can learn, play, and belong for free. What began as a little patio experiment, a space by neighbors, for neighbors, with the support of this city, eventually grew into what we now call St. Harmony Cafe, and it's part of a larger vision we call Harmony Hill. Harmony Hill is our local expression of the beloved community that Coretta Scott King spoke about, a place where neighbors care for one another, steward the land, and create opportunities for all generations. What we've learned is simple. If we get Black life right, we get community life right, and strong communities create a strong city. Before I close, I want to honor the people who make this work possible. To the Harmony Home Team and our city partners, thank you for sharing in this work and being so supportive. To my loving partner and husband, Raheem, we couldn't do this without you. And not just because the kids listen to you more. You are our backbone. You're the hardest person, the hardest worker I know, and I love you so much. To our daughters, Eva and Naya, who are our first volunteers, teaching pianos to the neighborhood kids, baking cookies and cake pops for the cafe, and showing what it means to lead with love. To our pastor and neighbor turned godfather, John Coker, who gave our children a third space and our community a home for after-school program and events, never misses a phone call or an opportunity to help. To our first team captain, a neighbor turned godson, Nazir, who despite carrying so much, has never missed a tree planting, volunteers at our after-school club 3 days a week, and has mobilized dozens of teens to help shift the culture of our neighborhood. To all of our neighbors, this award belongs to you. And above all, I give glory to God, who continues to guide this work and bring the right people together at the right time. As Coretta Scott King reminded us, the greatness of a community is measured by the compassionate actions of its members. I see that every day in Harmony Hill, and neighbors showing up for one another in small but powerful ways. Right now, we're continuing that work by restoring our community clubhouse and expanding green spaces that support our land stewards, our gardens, and our gatherings, simple things that make it easier for neighbors to connect and care for the place we live. So I'm grateful for this recognition, and I also want to extend an invitation. If you want to see the future of community life in Philadelphia, come spend a day with us in Harmony Hill. Thank you.
Turn your attention to the screens once more for our second to last award. It's a video presentation by Drew Katz, who will be awarding the Corporate Citizen of the Year.
Good evening, everyone. When I was 9 years old, my father took me to many, many Phillies games at Veterans Stadium, including Game 6 of the 1980 World Series. I was lucky enough to sit right on top of the dugout. Let's relive that moment. 2 outs, 2 strikes, Tug McGraw on the mound, Willie Wilson at the plate. My father leaned over to this 9-year-old little kid standing next to him, and he said to me, "Son, you are witnessing history." And on the very next pitch, the Phillies won their first ever World Series. Cut to 28 years later, different stadium, same seats above the dugout, a father and a son standing next to each other. What a special moment. We never had discussed that comment. We had reveled in the celebration. Here we were, 2 outs. My dad leans over and he starts to say something to me. He says, "Do you remember?" And before he could finish his sentence, I cut him off and I said, "Son, you are witnessing history." And on the very next pitch, the Phillies went on to win their second World Series. What an incredible full circle moment for a father and his son. So now it's 1 year later. It's 2009. The Phillies are back in the series again. Only this time, there's a small complication. They're playing the Yankees, a team we happen to co-own. So there we are, in the stands, rooting as hard as humanly possible for the Phillies against a team that we own with the Steinbrenners, which, by the way, is a very confusing experience. Because if the Yankees win, we get a ring. But if the Phillies win, Philadelphia gets joy. And in this city, that's not even a close call. Well, the Yankees went on to win that year, and we did get our rings. But I can assure you that my dad would have traded that ring in 3 seconds for another parade down Broad Street. Because to him, Philadelphia always came first. Because to him, and to everyone in this room, the Phillies are not just a baseball team. They are part of the civic heartbeat of Philadelphia. And that's why tonight feels so fitting. John and Leigh Middleton understand something that great leaders understand instinctively. That owning a team is a privilege, that being a part of a city is a responsibility, and the Middletons have given Philadelphia unforgettable moments on the field. But what really defines them is what they have done off the field. Their commitment to organizations like Project Home, their support for the people in this city who need it the most, and now their decision to share one of the greatest private collections of American art in the country with the public through a nation of artists at the Philadelphia Museum of Art and the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. It's extraordinary. It's not just philanthropy, it is citizenship. And that is exactly the spirit my father believed in when this award was created in his memory. He believed that success didn't mean much unless the people around you were better off because you were there. John and Leigh Middleton lived that idea every day of their lives. They bring pride to our city, they invest in its future, and they remind us that the best institutions, whether they're baseball teams, museums, or communities only thrive when people care enough to give back. And in a city that cares as deeply about its community as it does about its baseball, that kind of leadership really matters. So while I am deeply sorry not to be able to be there in person tonight, really sorry, it is my honor to present the Lewis Katz Corporate Citizen of the Year Award to two people who represent the very best of Philadelphia. John and Leigh, thank you for everything you do for this city and for honoring my father by accepting this award. Congratulations.
Welcome to the stage, John and Leigh Middleton.
Say one thing. My husband is going to speak tonight, but I want to tell you what my daughter said to me about 20 minutes ago. She said, "Why are you being honored? This is ridiculous with all the people that are being honored." And I'm
you gotta love your kids, don't you?
But it's
keeping it real.
It's so true. So I can't tell you how inspired we've been by everything we've heard, and now you have to hear from us. Yikes.
Wow. You told me you weren't going to say anything.
Had to do that.
Well, so anyway, the first sentence I was going to tell you was when we first were asked to accept this award, our instinct was somebody made a mistake. Apparently, my daughter has pointed out that there absolutely is a mistake. Fortunately, we immediately accepted so that we didn't give anybody a chance to change their mind. So Larry, Roxanne, your staff, and the board, thank you very much for honoring us as part of tonight's celebration. We came to accept an award, but honestly, we feel like we should be taking notes instead. This award carries Lewis Katz's name, and that means something to me personally. Lewis believed that businesses should serve your fellow man. Just a few weeks before his tragic death, he said, "It's never a perfect day unless you help someone who can never hope to pay you back." We have been thinking about his message lately because it captures something that feels urgent. Today, the idea of citizenship, of what we owe each other, of what it means to be part of a community, a city, a nation, is being tested in ways that were unimaginable not long ago. Good citizens believe that the city and its population are worth their time, effort, and resources. Everyone in this room understands that and has committed his or her life to that end. You give the best of what you have. You do not wait for someone else to fix a problem. Your commitment is exactly what Lewis Katz was talking about. And your commitment is what gives Leigh and me hope, not the vague, passive kind of hope, rather the active, I know what we're all capable of achieving hope. Larry, the Philadelphia Citizen does something very important. It covers solutions and not just problems. That's not a small thing. It's a radical act. Please keep doing it. 20 years ago, Sister Mary Scullion and Joan McConnon gave Leigh and me a tour of Project Home that changed our lives. We have never recovered from that tour, and I mean that as the highest possible compliment. We are honored and thrilled to be able to support Donna Bullock, who has taken over Project Home, and she has done a great job. She has done a wonderful job of building on the legacies of Mary and Sister Mary and Joan, and we are proud to support you, Donna. You run the best homeless organization in this country, and you are working every day to make it even better. Thank you. You are a great citizen of Philadelphia. So I wanted to be brief. This is what all of us in this room do, and we need to continue to do. You are what good citizenship looks like. And America's 250th birthday is a perfect moment to recommit to being a good citizen for this city, to each other, and to embrace that stubborn, generous idea that none of us gets very far by going it alone. Thank you.
One last time, please turn your attention to the screens for a video presentation of the Edward G. Rendell Lifetime Achievement Award, which is being presented by recording artist Black Thought.
Philadelphia has always been a place where the walls have eyes and ears and voices, a place where many people move through life obliviously, unaware of the conversations taking place between the cog and the wheel, or the people and the man, or nonconformity and tradition. Some people experience it as noise, and others as a beautiful orchestra. But if you know, you know. And Jane Golden was one of the first people who knew. And she recognized our graffiti in the 80s as a real effort to be seen and to be heard and felt, but not necessarily recognized. Right? It was never as much about recognition as it was obscurity. And, Jane showed us the value of being recognized both collectively and as individual artists. And then she embraced and incubated and nurtured, this notion that became a legacy. And, a legacy without which myself or the city of Philadelphia and, quite frankly, I say American culture, wouldn't be the same. So it's an absolute honor, to celebrate this woman's contribution as a real deal leader, as a real deal organizer, as a friend and fundraiser, and as a content creator before there was a such thing as, content creation. And as a hustler and a doer, I feel like we should all wear t-shirts that say, Jane Golden, get shit done. She's made it possible for us to tell stories that are literally stories tall, and we love her for it. So congratulations.
Welcome Jane Golden to the stage.
Hi everyone, how are you? Little drama right in the beginning. So first of all, I want to say this is incredibly humbling to be honored with this extraordinary group of people. And what I want to say about Tariq is that I met him a long time ago. He was assigned to the Anti-Graffiti Network, like everybody else, unwillingly. But I picked up a brush. I know, it was like, but so many young people did, and they picked up a brush, and art became a lifeline for them. And I think it's like he's living proof of what it means when young people at a really important age are introduced to the arts. It doesn't happen enough, it needs to happen more, and it can be absolutely 100% transformational. So I want to accept this honor, named after Governor Ed Rendell, who I admire so much. And David Cohen, I just cannot thank you enough. I came to Ed Rendell and David Cohen with this idea that we could have a community-based public art program in the city of Philadelphia. I didn't have much. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have an outline. But they believed in this idea, and I am forever grateful to you and the governor. Can we have a round of applause? It's like, that's what we need. Belief and courage. But I also want to accept this honor on behalf of thousands, literally thousands of people who have together made Philadelphia a world-renowned city of murals. As journalist Elizabeth Paris Luna says, she says that art makes us look again at things we thought we knew. And I believe that with all my heart. Over the last 4 decades, I have watched young people, often struggling with complex, difficult issues, pick up brushes and get in touch with their creativity and their potential. I've seen lifers in prison use art and mural making to find meaning in their lives and connect with others. And I've seen many who have been in prison get out and use the transformational power of art to connect with the world and do wonderful things. I've seen people in Kensington and in the concourse, where we have a program called Color Me Back, who are struggling with housing insecurity and trauma, start to create public art and realize their value and their self-worth. And as they are changing internally, they are changing the built environment of the city of Philadelphia. I've seen neighbors overcome intense conflicts through working together to make art. I've witnessed how the magic of public art can inject life and hope and optimism into every single corner of this city. And I have seen how Philadelphians have come to cherish their murals almost as much as the sports teams. Almost. Someone once said, we're winning the Super Bowl of art every day, everybody. 4,400 murals. Can we have a round of applause? It's awesome. Somebody said I shouldn't jump, but I can't help myself. I wake up every day and I'm excited. It's odd, but it's true. There is nothing that warms my heart more than seeing how art resonates so deeply with citizens across this wonderful city. I love the fact that Philadelphians love to see their history, their values, their culture, their memories, their history on walls throughout Philadelphia. It is truly the autobiography of the city of Philadelphia. People come here from all over the world, and sometimes people say, oh, the murals look like the people who live here. And I'm like, of course they do, because this work is absolutely co-created. For over 40 years, I have been driven by a number of dreams. One is that art can and should be made accessible to everyone. And that's non-negotiable. Art is like oxygen. That the power of art can be put to use to transform individuals and communities. And that life is a journey of faith, and we need to believe in things, as you've heard tonight, before they are real. It has been one of the great privileges of my life to see my dreams come true in my beloved city of Philadelphia. And it has been made possible through the collaboration and support of so many people, visionary artists, collaborators, elected officials, supporters. And I want to particularly name a few, starting with my tireless colleagues at the Mural Arts Program. They inspire me every day. The board of our nonprofit, the Philadelphia Mural Arts Advocates, Tony Schneider, I want to thank you for all your support and for being here tonight. Our mural artists, we have employed 6,000 artists since 1998. 6,000 artists. Philadelphia is a mecca for artists. It's so exciting. Our community leaders and block captains, yes, block captains, I love block captains, who keep our neighborhoods vital. My partners in city government, over 6 administrations, including Mayors Good, Rendell Street, Mayor Nutter's here, I'm so excited. Mayor Kenny, and of course, Mayor Parker. Our supporters in the private sector, some who are here tonight, that support wasn't for weeks or months, it was over decades, and I'm so grateful. And to my wonderful husband, Tony Hariza, for his love and unwavering support, a huge thank you. I am not easy to live with. I am always wound up. Newsflash. And I want to thank the Philadelphia Citizen. I love the Citizen. I've always loved the Citizen from the very beginning, for bringing solutions journalism to our city, but also for their courage, their insight, and dedication to Philadelphia. And I want to thank them for this tremendous honor. Many of you know that I am on the threshold of a change in my own life. This summer, I will leave mural arts in capable new hands and look to my next chapter, because I'm not ready to stop. I am excited to continue working for and with this city that I love. And so with that in mind, I'd like to leave you with some words from a poet that I love, Adrienne Rich. She says, what would it mean to live in a city whose people were changing each other's despair into hope? And then she answers it, and she says, you yourself must change it. You yourself must change it. And I believe this with all my heart, that we not only have the responsibility to do so, looking around the room, listening to the honorees, looking across the city, I know we have the capacity to do that. For me, social change begins when human beings defiantly, and I mean defiantly, refuse to accept the idea that nothing new is possible, because something new is always possible. And that has been the gift and the magic and the wonder of leading mural arts all these years. So everyone, let's please keep changing Philadelphia for the better, but together. And remember, I have an informal motto, and that is that art ignites change.
So thank you all for coming. Is Philly great or what? Yeah. Just an inspiring evening. Now let's go Flyers.
Yes, thank you. I'm moved to tears, and I hope all of you had a really nice time and feel inspired to go out in the world and make the change that Jane has talked about. Thank you.